When it comes to outdoor activities, a portable table or camping chair is always handy to use. It's very simple and easy to make, and a nice thing about it is it's super strong and sturdy to be used as a chair. Now I'm using a plain all-round pine timber, 22 by 44 wide, 1.8 meters long, and I'm using 4 pieces. Get the guys at Builders to cut it all to your sizes for you. I've got 7 pieces, 330 long, 2 pieces 300 millimeters long, and then 4 pieces 500 mils long. I've also got some 22 millimeter dowel stick, and I've also got some 3 millimeter dowel sticks. We've got some M6 gutter bolts, which are 50 millimeters long. We've got some 6mm fender washers, some normal washers, some spring washers, a couple of 35 millimeter long screws, and I've got a load of 60 millimeter length screws. And we've got some dome nuts, and those are really cool because they actually hide the ends of the threads of the bolts and also stops any sharp edges and stuff like that. We're going to be using some cabinet and furniture paint, and then we're going to use some clear lacquer to seal the timber. Obviously I'm going to be using some wood glue between the mating surfaces. As for the tools that I'm going to be using, cordless drill, a jigsaw, a sander, a tape measure, a compass, a pencil, a speed pilot, a 6mm wood bit, a spade bit, a 10mm spanner, and a sponge roller and tray. So let's have a look at the base of the seat set. It's basically 7 pieces all lined out evenly spaced, held together with these 2 struts. Let's get started with marking out where to actually put all these slots and these bolt holes, and then we can get started with the assembly of the table. Now this is our brace, which has got a groove in the underside there, as well as the mounting hole for the bolt. Now that mounting hole is situated 40 millimeters into the center of the timber, and we're putting in a 6mm diameter hole using the wood bit. We've also chamfered off our corners just to give that rounded edge on both sides. On this side, we are going to be using a 22mm spade bit at 40 millimeters in the center of the timber, and then we're also going to be cutting our 2 slots, and those starting points are going to be 48 millimeters and 85 millimeters. Once we've drilled that hole, we'll then drill sight lines down to actually cut with our jigsaw. As for the legs, there's going to be a similar marking process. We've got 2 different legs. Okay, so all the difference is the diameter difference from 22 to 6mm, but otherwise it's exactly the same. Okay, our first hole is measured from the far side, and it's 480 millimeters all the way to that hole. Likewise for the matching piece. Then moving down to the middle hole, which is from this guy here, that is 290 millimeters all the way from the outer edge, always from the same datum point. Then moving down to the next 2, which is a 22mm hole, and we're marking out 80 millimeters from either side, and it's a 22mm hole. As you'll see, it is in the center of the material. Then we have the last piece, which is the foot, and we're chamfering that off at 30 millimeters. So we've marked out 30 millimeters, and then we've just drawn a line from the corner all the way through, and then we're going to cut that off with a jigsaw. Right, time to drill all our pieces. I'm going to start off with the 22mm hole. I'm using a 22mm spade bit. Okay, that's all my 22mm holes done. Now that's why you see it's important to mark your holes so you don't make a mistake. It's very easy to do. I've done it more than enough times myself. We're moving over now to the 6mm hole. That's all the holes drilled. I'm now going to move on to the cutting. I just need to add in the 2 guidelines here for the slotted area here, and then we're going to cut it out with the jigsaw, and then sand everything down with your sander to remove any sharp edges or any burrs, and then just clean up those chamfers and those curves. All my pieces are sanded down now. I'm now going to start assembling this base set. Remember, we've got our 7 pieces. We're going to use the corner of our table to mark it all up because I know it's square. And here's the easy part of actually making sure that you get every one of those evenly spaced. Now I've set it to 3mm simply and purely so that I can actually use this 3mm dowel stick as a spacer instead of trying to measure each one out. The placement of the seat struts, we're going 55 millimeters from either side, and then 15 millimeters is the spacer on the ends there. Once you've got those into position, you can now see where the screw has got to go through the top all the way down into the center of the slat. I'm now going to use my speed pilot to drill through each one of those, as well as countersink that screw below the surface of the timber. It's always advisable to put wood glue between the mating surfaces. This will really give the bonding strength of holding those slats onto that strut. When it comes to this lower section here, that's where we're going to use the 35mm screw, because obviously it's got less meat to go through and they'll protrude through the bottom if we use a longer screw. Okay, that's our table seat done, ready to go. We're going to use this as a template to get the right size spacing of our dowel sticks. So we're going to pop that down, and let me just show you what I mean. So if we have a look here, what we've got is we've got thickness of timber, we've got another piece of timber, and another piece of timber. But in between these joints, we've got a flat washer, and that's going to act as a spacer to stop the two pieces of timber from rubbing against each other. Also, you'll find that your timber thickness does vary from piece to piece. Just depends on the moisture content in the factory at the time when it was being machined. So we're going to get a true length of these dowel sticks. So we've got one piece of timber. We're going to be having a spacer as our washer. In goes the first piece of timber. In goes another washer and another piece of timber. Exactly the same for the other side, and then straight away you can see that we've now allowed for the thickness of the timbers as well as the thickness of the washers. Remember, we wanted to be sitting flush with the edge here. We've got one short piece and two long pieces. So the one short piece covers one piece of timber, and then the next piece is we're going to have two, which is including two pieces of timber. With those marked, I'm going to cut that with my jigsaw. And then I'm going to secure that with some wood glue, and the dowel sticks can go through the center. Now allow that to set for around about 10 minutes, and then you can start on the next side. Okay, the last two dowels in, allow that glue to set, and then we can start painting up our table. I'm going to be using this cabinet and furniture paint. Really fantastic stuff. It's 3-in-1 acrylic primer, undercoat and top coat. 3-in-1. Great stuff, and you can apply it to wood. You'll see when we put it on, you actually only need one coat. Okay, I've got my coat of paint on. I'm going to allow that to dry for about an hour, and then I'm going to sand down the edges. I want a smooth edge where I've got the dowel sticks coming through, and I'm going to clean up any overlap of paint which has gone on the sides. And then we're going to seal it with some lacquer spray. A handy hint is to make use of this attachment. It makes your spraying experience so much easier. When using spray paint, ensure you're in a well-ventilated area. Right, we're at the end of our DIY now, where we can start assembling it. The fun part begins. So, 6mm gutter bolt through the one hole, washer in between. Okay, that bolt goes through, and then we're putting a flat washer, a spring washer, and then a dome nut on the underside. Give it a slight nip with a spanner. Flip it over and we'll do the other side. And then just make sure it's tight enough, but there is still enough free movement. Okay, bring in our seat base or our table base, and then let's turn that around. Lock that into place there. Slide this guy down. Washer, spring washer, followed by a dome nut. There you have it, the DIY is complete. The most important thing now is to put this to good use and get it out in the open. If you enjoyed this clip, like it, share it. You can also subscribe to our Builders Fan YouTube channel, where there's a range of DIYs just like this, as well as product reviews for you to check out.